My next guest has been a role model for a generation of boys growing up. Charles Barkley played in the NBA for 16 seasons and made it all the way to the Basketball Hall of Fame, and he is now an NBA analyst for TNT, and he's joining me tonight. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
So you are rich, you are famous, you are hugely successful. In the context of what we've been talking about here tonight, what does it mean to you to be black in America right now?
I just feel sadness. I feel sadness because black on black crime is going through the roof. We have more black men in prison than we do in college. And at some point, hey, racism exists, it's always going to exist, unfortunately. But at some point, you got to draw a line in the sand. And we have not drawn that line in the sand. When I made my role model commercial back in the 80s, you know, it was really poignant and significant because schools are still segregated. And when I would go speak at white schools, I would say, how many of y'all want to play in the NBA? And only like 5% would raise their hands.
Right.
You know, I said, well, what do you want to do? I said, I want to be a teacher. I want to be a fireman, policeman, doctor, lawyer, engineer. But when I would go and speak at black schools, 95% of them would raise their hand. And that's why I made the role model commercial. I want young black kids to think about being doctors, lawyers, teachers, firemen, and policemen and things like that.
We talked about absentee fathers a little earlier, and I know your dad wasn't around much when you grew up. How much of an effect do you think that had on you?
Well, you know, it had a huge effect on me, but I got a great mother and a great grandmother who really instilled in me work ethic and things like that. But, you know, we can sit here these two nights and talk about, at some point, that's my favorite phrase, you got to draw a line in the sand. Your dad is not there. You are poor. But if you don't get your education and if you go around killing other black people, you're only making things worse. Like, first of all, there's no right or wrong answer. But if you are selling drugs in the black community, you're not taking care of your kids, you're not getting your education, you're just making the situation worse. And you can blame, quote unquote, white America, you can blame other successful black people, but at some point as a man, you got to say, you know what? I am going to take care of my kids and my family.
But you've talked about this a lot. You've taken this very tough love, if you will, kind of approach in what you've said and how you've spoken out about it. But you've also said here that the biggest cancer of your lifetime is racism. So how much of an effect is that having on people and holding people back?
Well, racism is at the crux of this entire situation. But it's always going to be there. Because a certain amount of white people and a certain amount of black people are always going to be racist. But like, you know, slavery did happen. It had a very huge detriment to black people. But like, in realistic though, older black people are the ones who did all the quote unquote heavy lifting. These young black kids who are killing each other, who are not getting an education, they are making it worse. Like older black people, you know, they should have a chip on their shoulder. I understand that, I accept that. But the problem we got in the black community now is younger black people. That's our problem. They're killing each other at an unbelievable rate. And that brings great sadness to me. And they're not getting their education.
We've only got about 20 seconds left, but I know you got a daughter.
Yes.
How hopeful are you for her, if this is, as you say, a generational thing?
Well, because of my mother and grandmother, I got great hopes. I got two younger brothers I got four nieces. I just tell them, you got to make sure that they get their education. And, you know, black people, my people, used to have great pride, dignity, and self-esteem. That's missing right now, period.
Charles Barkley, it's great to have you here. Appreciate
Thank you
the
for
time
having
tonight.
me. Anytime.